What's good, Wizards fans? It's your host, Real Ed Oliver and Brandon Scott, and our special guest, Troy Haliburton, back for part two. We're going to talk about GM candidates and more about Tommy Sheppard's tenure. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. All right, so let's get started about the GM candidates. So Josh Robbins tweeted out that the Wizards are not employing a search firm to identify candidates for their vacant GM / president of basketball operations job, league sources told The Athletic today. 4 years ago, the team used a search firm after Ernie Grenfell's dismissal. A different approach this time, and of course, Ernie used this. Ted used the search firm to end up with hiring a guy that was already in-house in Tommy Sheppard. He did contact 78 people. He contacted Barack Obama. He contacted Greg Popovich just to end up with Tommy Sheppard as the GM. Also, Fred Katz. Go ahead.
Just hearing you say this stuff out loud it's comical. Like they went to an elaborate search firm and talked to all these people, and then they hired the guy who was underneath Ernie. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Like you have to laugh to keep from crying. And so
can't make it up.
Now this time, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why right now they're not hiring a search firm. They don't have time. They don't have time. Like that's the thing. Like it doesn't like nothing they're doing that makes sense. They don't have time to go out and hire a search firm and have this because a search firm they're going to take their time. They're not going to be rushed through this process. They have to their performance is based on doing their due diligence. And so they like it would be a waste of money to go out and get a search firm at this point because they have to make a hire within the next month because the draft is coming up on the 22nd. And to me, honestly, I think if I were the Wizards, I would try to make a hire before even the draft lotteries to get somebody locked in because look, it's gonna be it might be depending on what happens on May 16th in the draft lottery. This job could be a very desirable one, or this could be a job where people might not be too happy to come here. But I think that when you look at the timeline of what they can do, like it's not feasible for them to hire a search firm because there just isn't enough time to go through an extensive process like that with the draft and everything coming up. They need to make a hire within the next month. Realistically.
Right. Yeah. They shouldn't waste any time with this, especially with the best thing they got going for them right now is that they're the only team looking for a general manager. So that's the best advantage they have right now. They're not competing with anybody. This is the only open spot. But that's a good point about the lottery pick because if we get ninth again, then GM
Bob Myers might be like, I want to go back to Golden State. But if they get number one, then look, everybody, Masai Ujiri would be like, what kind of outs do I have on this contract with the Raptors? It changes. Everything could change based on what happens May 16th.
Yeah, even really 3, even 2. I mean, of course, Scoot Henderson at 2, but even 3.
Even 2 or 3. Like if 4, if they can jump up into that top 4 and get one of those picks and get one of these certified blue chip prospects that everybody's talking about, then I think that can very well change the trajectory of this organization.
Definitely. And also Fred Katz said sources, NBA sent out a memo telling the other 29 teams that the points of contact in the Wizards front office are now vice president of player programs, John Thompson III, and assistant GM, Brett Greenberg. Neither has an interim title, but they're the people to call if other teams are doing business. So I guess what have you heard about Josh Roberts' report first about them not employing a search firm to identify candidates 4 years ago? Well, you already said your take on that, but what are your thoughts about JT3 and Brett Greenberg? Is there any inklings that you have that they may take a turn and promote one of those guys, even though Ted said he's going to go out of the building? What are your thoughts on that tweet from Fred Katz?
No, I think that's very accurate as to what was going on. I knew, so I was kind of unsure about Brett as far as whether I knew JT3 was staying. He's solidified. Because and then when you look at like the way the Wizards, the way that Monumental basketball is kind of structured, it's like JT3 is kind of like on his own level, even to what Sashi Brown and Tommy Sheppard were, but his just responsibilities are just different. So, and when it comes to basketball decisions, I don't think that JT3 really had much input or say. But as far as a lot of the other things that Monumental Sports is doing, I think that he has kind of solidified and entrenched himself in that role, and that he's definitely safe to still be here. And so, and right now, that's just a point of contact for people who are within the organization or other NBA teams, or even like Ted when he wants to have business done. Like his point of contact is probably JT3. And so when it comes to like basketball decisions, if there needed to be a basketball decision made, I guess that would be Brett Greenberg. But I don't think, like I said, I don't think there's nothing to be done until May 16th, and then ultimately the draft in June. But like I said, JT3, I think that it was weird because I was talking with somebody who works within the league. And he made a joke. He asked me, so are JT3 and Brett supposed to hire their new boss? It's kind of it definitely begets more questions as far as the corporate structure, as far as what like who is reporting to who, and what powers these people have. But I've heard that they've already begun the interview process, and the name that I've heard was Milt Newton, who's the assistant GM for the Milwaukee Bucks. Is that he was with the Wizards organization from 2003 to 2013, so he spent a decade here under the Tommy and Ernie tenures, and I think that he's a very viable candidate that the team is looking at, and he's already interviewed from my understanding.
Right, and you said which roster is which team is he with right now?
He's with the Milwaukee Bucks right now. So he's the assistant general manager of the team that just won the championship two seasons ago. So I think that this would kind of be this would actually be like the perfect Ted hire, because he's a guy who's already been here, but he could technically say, "Oh yeah, I hired from outside the organization," even though he spent a decade here under Ernie and Tommy, but he came from the outside, so this will be totally different.
Right, kind of like the Tim Connolly way, if they do inquire with Tim.
Yeah, and we, like I said, we can get into like more candidates. I can't see the Connolly thing happening, just because Minnesota just got him, and he didn't already flip that franchise upside down in 1 year. Like, it'll be tough for him to just walk away from that after one season. So I just can't see Connolly, being a viable candidate for this job.
Right. Yeah. Connolly, it makes sense because, like you said, he worked with Tommy, or he worked with the Wizards. So Ted Leonsis has familiarity with Tim Connolly, a local guy, went to Catholic University from the DMV area. So it makes sense for them to interview him. But like you said, it doesn't make sense at the same time because he really just started with the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves worked hard to bring him in as the GM. And I know people have soured with him, like you said, with the Rudy Gobert trade, giving up all those picks for Rudy Gobert. So that is a concern with Tim Connolly, but he's made some good moves throughout his career. But yeah, we definitely want to get to some more possible candidates. But before we do get into that, today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part, check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, Brandon, you can go ahead.
Sound like Russell Wilson, man. Let's ride. All right, so I know, right? So I know we're talking about GM search, but let's talk about a other major need real quick. Point guard. Now, looking at a potential fit at our future point guard of the future, do you see us getting really handing the keys off to a rookie like Anthony Black or Casey Wallace, or do you see this team handing the keys off to the offense to a established veteran point guard? What do you think?
I would probably go with established veteran point guard. Just point guards in the NBA, like a rookie point guard. If you're not, Derrick Rose or John Wall coming in, like most of these rookie point guards aren't going to be starter quality. I just don't see that happening. A name that I would look at, the Wizards probably would look at and try to figure out. Somebody like a Fred VanVleet, if they could possibly, try to pry him away. But that would entail them not bringing back one of either KP or Kuzma. But that might be a good thing for them because they need a point guard back. Excuse me.
Pleasure.
But I think point guard. I think that the fact that they haven't addressed the point guard over the last 3 seasons or since Russell Westbrook was here, I think that is another one of the main reasons why Tommy Sheppard is on his way out the door. Is because this is in today's NBA, the pace and space era, to not have a competent starting point guard is almost criminal. For the last 2 years. And I know that, I like Monty Morris a lot, and I just never thought that he was a starting quality point guard. And I think he's a great backup. I think he's one of the top 5 backup point guards in the NBA, but he's just not a starter. And not being able to have a guy next to Brad to be able to set him up, to be able to run the offense, to be able to kind of direct the team, I think it's been one of the major flaws of the Wizards over the last, couple of years.
Now, it's funny that you brought up Monte, because if we do indeed find that point guard of the future, if you look at Monte, DeLon, and Jordan Goodwin, is Monte that guy? Is he the odd man out to be moved?
I think to be potentially moved, yes, and I think that he still has value because, like I said, he's one of the top 5 backup point guards in the NBA. I think that's a guy who what he showed me this year is he's exactly who I thought he was. He's a guy who limits his turnovers. He's a decent shooter, and he can run an offense in a controlled environment, but just don't rely on him to be blowing past people and dropping dimes and setting folk up like that. He's not that type of point guard, but he's just a nice steady hand. And one other thing else I noticed about this is you brought up DeLon. Man, DeLon Wright's not a point guard. We can call it with what it is. He's not a point guard. He plays point guard, he defends point guard, but he's not a point guard. So I think that they need Monty on the team, in order to help facilitate and run the second unit.
So is point guard really what they're looking at in the draft, or would a player like Cam Whitmore be a target? Because
I have no idea what they're looking at in the draft because my main source just walked out of the building. So I have no idea what they would be looking at. I know that from conversations that I've had with people within the team before Tommy was let go, I think that they're looking for a 3-and-D wing, I think that they've been really looking for the next. Everybody in the NBA is looking for the next Paul George.
Yeah, he's in Villanova. I'm trying to tell you,
that might be a guy today that if he's going to be there at the 8 or 9 pick, because I'm gonna be a pessimist here. I just can't see the Wizards jumping up, but we'll see what happens. I'm mad they lost that tie break with Indiana, and so that 7-8. If that comes back to haunt the Wizards, if one of those late season wins comes back and haunts the Wizards, man, so Wizards Twitter will definitely have a lot to talk about on draft lottery night.
Absolutely. So before we move on to talk about the GM search, tonight's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. Groceries, school shopping, and get a little something for yourself. You're already doing it. So why not get cash back for it with Ibotta? Watching your closet grow with purchasing all the season's latest trends. How about also watching your cash grow back with each purchase with Ibotta? We're always throwing money at something. Kids' school supplies, a new house project. The list goes on. It's time to stop spending your hard-earned cash without getting anything in return. Enter Ibotta. You can earn cash back on everything every shopping trip. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and get your cash back. It's that easy. The average Ibotta user earns $120 a year in real cash back. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, or you can use your cash back to buy that flight you've been eyeing, or that game you've been dying to go to, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. A typical basket of groceries was over $50 more expensive at the end of 2022 than the beginning of the year due to inflation. You could earn 2.5 times that in cash back from Ibotta, and even more depending on how much you use Ibotta. Ibotta gives you real cash back, no, not points. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much, but Ibotta gives you real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. You can earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just trying Ibotta for using the code LOCKED when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA at the Google Play or App Store and user code LOCKED.
All right. What other GM candidates do you think are realistic for the Wizards? Everybody is pointing to Bob Myers. The Athletic said that they could inquire with Bob Myers. Masai Ujiri, Trajan Langdon with the Pelicans is out there. Who else have you heard, or who else do you think are realistic candidates?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think Milt Newton, I said already, who I think I've heard his already interview. I think Trajan Langdon is a very valuable candidate. Is a guy that I know that's going to get an interview. Bob Myers, I think, is as far as the big game hunting goes, as far as like the big names, I think that Bob Myers is an actual thing that could happen because his contract with the Warriors is going to be up. And so, there will be less hassle. Like if they want Masai Ujiri, they're probably going to have to give up a draft pick or something because he just re-signed in Toronto. And so, I mean, he might very well be worth a second round pick, if we're being honest. But Bob Myers, I think this is a guy that, that he will probably be on the hunt for a very big, lucrative contract. And I think that, he's a guy as a former agent who has ties with, I know he's really close with David Falk, and David Falk's offices are in DC. And I think that, that he might want to, be in DC and he might, have other aspirations just outside of being just a GM. That DC is a very powerful place to be in. And this is a guy with a lot of connections and can make stuff happen. So I think that him being in DC is kind of attractive to him. As far as, like I said, Trajan Langdon, I think is a young, up and coming. Well, he's really not that young. I mean, he's been out of the league for about a decade now, 2 decades. But I think he's only like between 40, 45 years old. So I think that he's a guy who is on the rise, but he doesn't really have any ties to this team or this franchise. So if they were to make that higher, I would be kind of surprised. Ooh. I'm sorry. I just looked at Trae Young just hit a shot with 1.8 seconds left. I'm sorry. I got distracted.
No, you're good. Yeah, it's crazy to go.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that there are a couple of other names that I would look at. There's a guy out in Sacramento named Paul Johnson. He's from the DC area. He was just named Executive of the Year in the G League. And so I think that is a guy that the team might look at as far as getting him involved in the interview process. I'm not sure if he's like a real candidate to get the job, but they're going to be people that are going to get interviews, and that'll help them build their careers moving forward. But if I had to pick on this date, I would say that it will be between Milt Newton and Bob Myers as far as who's going to be the next GM of the Wizards. I think Milt Newton has an advantage right now because, I'm not sure if they've interviewed other people, but like I said, my reporting is that he's already interviewed with the team. And so this is a guy who has familiarity with the Wizards as far as he was with the organization for 10 years. And this is a guy who, he's the assistant GM of the Milwaukee Bucks and helped lead them to a championship. And this is a guy that is very well liked and respected around the NBA. And so I think that kind of makes a little bit of sense for them. But between he and then, but like I said, if they want to, if things don't shake out right and Golden State and Bob Myers becomes available, I think that Ted would definitely look to try to go big game hunting and bring him in.
Yeah.
Anybody else, I would be like shockingly surprised. Like I would be very surprised if Masai Ujiri was the next GM of the Wizards. I would be very surprised if Tim Connelly was the next GM of the Wizards. I would be shocked almost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up, but I know a lot of Wizards fans listening definitely would be excited with Bob Myers. So I know they're getting their hopes up listening, hearing you say that for sure. But yeah, there's some good candidates out there. And like I said before, that we're the only job open right now. So we don't have to compete with other teams right now for a GM. But they have some good candidates. And you heard it here first from Troy that they had their first official interview with Milt Newton. I know GM Scott Perry could be a candidate from the New York Knicks as well. Last time they interviewed Danny Ferry. So I don't know if he would be a candidate or anything like that. But I think those are a couple of good candidates. Bob Myers would be a heck of a hire. But Masai
I forgot about Scott Perry. I think Scott Perry is a guy. He has ties with a lot of DC people. And I think that's a name that Ted respects. And so I put him number 3. I forgot about Scott Perry. But I'm like I said, I wouldn't hire Scott Perry, but he is a name that I know that resonates with the people in that building. So, I think that he if I had to rank him, I would probably go Milt Newton, Bob Myers, Scott Perry as the power ranking of next GM for the Wizards.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll look from a month now back on this video and we'll see how that goes. So
I hear everything. I just wanted to clear up a few things. Like I said, like there's a difference between reports and speculating. Like I can speculate as much as I want. And like I said, I knew that Tommy Sheppard's job was I wouldn't say on the line. Obviously, was on the line because he got fired. But to me, like the reason why I was like going out there because they did so much due diligence at the trade deadline as far as looking at different options and trying to trade people. And then for them to, at the last minute, decide that they weren't going to trade anybody, and then for them to go out there and miss the play-in, I think that ultimately the chain of decisions is what cost Tommy Sheppard the job. So, like people say whatever they want. Maybe he should have been listening to me. Like,
and at the deadline, you said they were looking to trade Kuz. They were looking to trade Porzingis.
Everything was on the table. They did. Everybody reported like they did due diligence on every option. Like besides trading Bradley Beal, but as far as everybody that was on that roster, every NBA team got calls from the Wizards about the guys on their roster. And I think ultimately they might not have been as happy with some of the answers they were getting. Everybody was available to be traded, but I mean, ultimately, I don't think that they were getting the type of returns and these trade talks that they thought that they deserved for their players. So, I think that there's a couple of different factors as to why they didn't make a move. I think that Tommy thought that keeping it together was his best course of action to try and compete for a play-in spot. He was very wrong to think that. Anybody with a basketball eye could see that team wasn't going to come out here and make a playoff run. I don't know what he was thinking, but I mean, I think that that trade deadline really kind of cemented his fate within the organization, because as when Ted put out that statement, it was very quick. It was like 2 sentences. In the first sentence, he talked about, we ain't make the playoffs. And I know that Ted, that stuff matters to him. That like getting those playoff gates matters to him. And so for them to not even be competitive, to not even be in the play-in, to not even be for it to go down to the last, 2 or 3 weeks of the season and they were already eliminated, like I think that was embarrassing for the Wizards as an organization. And I think that is definitely, it led to Ted Leonsis finally making a decision to part ways with Tommy Sheppard.
Right. As Tommy said, it was disgusting. The season was disgusting. He went and said it was an incomplete grade, and then he changed his tune and said the
But
season was.
that's another thing. How can it be an incomplete grade? Like that. My thing is with Tommy, like, and this is it. Like I like the guy personally, and he and I have a relationship, and I've even spoken to him since he's been let go of the job. But everything that I'm saying right now, I have no problem saying in front of his face and saying directly to him. I think that he really got caught BSing a lot too much. And at the end of the day, he lost his purpose. He lost why he was here. He lost the journey of him taking 20 years to finally get this job. And they came in and then just, I don't know, he just squandered an opportunity away because he couldn't be real. And my thing is, it's like, or either he was in such denial with his position within the organization that he thought that it was sweet, that he thought that he was okay to be comfortable and not be under this mandate, that or really, like, I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I want to hold myself back because, you know, like I still have relationships like with these people, but to me, it just, a lot of the stuff that he said, it never made sense. And my thing is, when people would ask him about this stuff, he would just spin it to something else and then make you forget about what you just asked. Or they always had a line of excuses ready, you know. Oh, like they were the only team to go through injuries, or like they were the only team to have people miss games of COVID. Like they were the only team to go through any type of struggle. Like it was always something with him. And like I said, they never really had a plan. And a lot of the things, a lot of the reasoning behind a lot of the decisions that he made never really made sense. Or he just was playing not accountable at all. I don't know. Like I personally think that Telios has made the right decision, because I think that Tommy had his opportunity. He had his chance. And from really, if you look at his track record, he didn't do enough to give them a reason to keep him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he said the solid three, they neneeded more cohesion and injuries. You know, when they did play together, they were 16-19.
Come on, man. What are we talking about here? That's like he think everybody's stupid except for him. Like, yeah, the injuries, 16-19. It can't even get in the, what are we doing? I don't know. Like, that's the thing that is really insulting to me, and the way that a lot of people within the Wizards organization, you know, that goes with Telios too. And I think that, you know, he put out that statement, but I would love to be able to sit down and have a Q&A with Ted to figure out what's going on, because I don't think there's really a lot of accountability about what's going on with the Wizards. And when people ask questions, they always try to spin it and make it seem like they're being picked on, or like people are hating. It's like, no, like y'all are making moves that are kind of shaky. And people just want to know what's going on. And if you made a mistake, just be accountable. People like, yo, I made a mistake. My bad, y'all. Like it's sometimes it's that simple. But I don't think that that's the type of truth and realism that we get from the Wizards organization.
Right. So other than the moves that he made, you know, the trades and some of the Monte Morris for KCP trade didn't work out. Will Barton didn't work out. The Rui for Nunn trade didn't really work out because Nunn didn't play. He did make a couple good trades along the way. The draft picks were just solid, no home runs. I do think Johnny Davis not working out. I do think that didn't help his case even more. I think that made it worse for him because, you know, Johnny Davis, I like him as a player, but he looks, you know, it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time. And you see other guys like Jalen Williams playing well with the Thunder, or Tari Eason, Jalen Duren. There's a couple guys you can name drafted, other Johnny Davis, that have been more impactful than Johnny Davis at this point. You know, he had a couple good games at the end of the year. How is Tommy's relationship with the rest of the front office, like, you know, Sashi Brown, other guys that left, you know, Pop Spencer, Bonsu? What were you hearing about how he had chemistry with other guys like JT3?
Well, I feel like some of those relationships were rocky, and I think that when you look at why he's no longer with the organization, I think that, you know, people want to look at Tommy's relationship within others in the organization, and this is not just something from, you know, the last year. I think that, you know, we would go back for his whole entire tenure here about, you know, how people felt like they were being treated or being talked to, or, just all different types of things. That workplace environment, and I feel like that the Wizards as an organization didn't do the best job of maintaining a very not I wouldn't say comfortable. They didn't maintain a copacetic workplace environment for all involved. And I think that ultimately that, some people realize like that, there's bigger and better things out here in this world than the Washington Wizards. And so, we look at people who left the organization, like they didn't leave to go anywhere. Like they got people got options out here. And so they're not about to be sitting around, dealing with combative situations when, that they could go and live easier lives and probably better organizations and better, like hell, Sashi Brown was like, I'm gonna go back to football. Like this ain't working for me. Like, and so, I think that when you look at Tommy Sheppard and the way that he treated people, he has this public perception that, that he gets along with everybody. And I think that, that there are very much a lot of people within the Wizards organization who love him. I think that, there were a lot of people within the Wizards organization who thought that he was a great guy. And I think that there were some people who weren't really happy with how things were being run under Tommy Sheppard's tenure. And so, ultimately, I think that, but to me, none of that stuff. I don't think that there was anything that would maybe like, oh man, you got to fire the guy. But you combine that and the losing record over the 4 years, then it's just like, why are we keeping him?
Right. Yeah. He never won more than 35 games. So,
exactly. So yeah, when you start adding in that and also, like the different things that are rumblings that you're hearing within the organization, then it kind of makes sense as to why they felt the need to move on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Brandon, did you have any questions?
No, I'm out of questions, man, but I'll comment on Tommy real quick. I agree with you, with that, those trades he made being the last straw with him being fired, because in the second half of the season, what did we always say was the issues with this team? Lack of bench scoring and 3-and-D wing. We traded away KCP, which you see his impact in Denver. I'm just saying. And Rui, the writing was on the wall, man. So
Black Samurai. Yeah, man. We got back those 3 first. They're gonna be those 3 second-round draft picks and Kendrick Nunn. Like, I don't think that was enough. And I think I've said this before on many different platforms. Like, the Wizards were heavily invested in Rui Hachimura and bringing the Japanese market to Wizards fandom, and to just see that go away for what essentially amounts to a lot of nothing. I think that ultimately that was one of the things that definitely led to Tommy Sheppard's demise. Like, watching Rui Hachimura go off for 20-point games and for the Lakers in the playoffs, watching LeBron sit up there and call him clutch and dependable. Like, these are things that I don't think Ted Nelson could stomach.
And player development too, because Rui he was quoted to say, Phil Handy, who's their assistant, trainer or whatever, their assistant coach with the Lakers too. I'm paraphrasing, but Rui said that they took time with me, or they cared about me, or something like that. He definitely went out his way to kind of throw shots at the Wizard organization. I feel like, talking about player development there. And then Phil Handy was quoted to say that when he saw Rui, I want to develop Rui. So it definitely felt. And then when Rui left too, he wasn't happy with the situation. We get it. And then Tommy tried to say he wanted more playing time for Denny, but I know that hurt Ted a lot, because
it never made any sense, because Denny's minutes stayed the same. Oh my God, yeah. That's another Tommy spin. You think everybody else is not paying attention? Like, we don't have the NBA stats website. Like, we can't go and look up this stuff. Like, I don't understand. Like, but he gets continue with that narrative, knowing that I know he had burner Twitter accounts. He knew that we knew that wasn't true, but he kept running with it anyway. Like, we all stupid. But, get Denny more minutes, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I know Ted was definitely hurt about that, because, flying to Japan for the preseason game. So I know there was a lot heavily invested, and now to see that happen to LA, where it's a bigger market too, I know Ted was definitely upset about that. But
definitely.
Yeah, but Troy, we thank you for coming on. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about the Wizards organization?
Like, I feel like I appreciate you guys opening up the platform because I had a lot of things that that I wanted to say, and I feel like as far as I wanted to get a chance to give people honest coverage because if you look at it right now, it's not a lot of people talking about what's going on within the Wizards organization. There's not a lot of people giving you in-depth behind the scenes about why some of these things are happening, why people are getting fired, what's going on with the hiring process, who's getting interviews. These are things that Wizards fans want to know. So I think that it's definitely cool that you guys give me the opportunity to come on here and just I feel like I was able to vent for a little bit because this was a tough year covering Wizards basketball, and it's especially tough when you know things that are going on, but you can't say anything, so you just got to sit back and keep your mouth shut. But now that things are kind of the wheels are kind of spinning towards a little bit of a transition and change, I definitely feel like the people deserve to know a little bit more about how the sausage is made.
Right. All right, Troy, do you have anything to plug? Where can they find you on social media?
And you can find me on social media at Troy Haliburton. I got nothing to plug right now, but be on the lookout for some big things coming up this summer. That's all I'm going to say about that right now.
Yes, sir. We can't wait. Definitely locked in with Troy. So thank you for coming on. Thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow on the show. We're going to have Howard back coming in to talk about the Wizards. So that should be a fun show as well. Thank you guys for listening. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.